1 Samuel chapter 20. Then David fled from Naioth at Ramah and went to Jonathan and asked, "What have I done? What is my crime? How have I wronged your father that he is trying to take my life?" "Never," Jonathan replied. "You are not going to die. Look, my father doesn't do anything great or small without confiding in me. Why would he hide this from me?" "It's not so." But David took an oath and said, "Your father knows very well that I have found favor in your eyes, and he has said to himself, 'Jonathan must not know this, or he will be grieved.' Yet as surely as the Lord lives, and as you live, there is only a step between me and death." Jonathan said to David, "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do for you." So David said, "Look, tomorrow is the new moon festival, and I am supposed to dine with the king. But let me go and hide in the field until the evening of the day after tomorrow. If your father misses me at all, tell him David earnestly asked my permission to hurry to Bethlehem, his hometown, because an annual sacrifice is being made there for his whole clan. If he says very well, then your servant is safe. But if he loses his temper, you can be sure that he is determined to harm me. As for you, show kindness to your servant, for you have brought him into a covenant with you before the Lord. If I am guilty, then kill me yourself. Why hand me over to your father?" "Never," Jonathan said. "If I had the least inkling that my father was determined to harm you, wouldn't I tell you?" David asked, "Who will tell me if your father answers you harshly?" "Come," Jonathan said, "let's go out into the field." So they went there together. Then Jonathan said to David, "By the Lord, the God of Israel, I will surely sound out my father by this time, the day after tomorrow. If he is favorably disposed toward you, will I not send you word and let you know? But if my father is inclined to harm you, may the Lord deal with me, be it ever so severely, if I do not let you know and send you away safely. May the Lord be with you as he has been with my father. But show me unfailing kindness like that of the Lord as long as I live, so that I may not be killed. And do not ever cut off your kindness from my family, not even when the Lord has cut off every one of David's enemies from the face of the earth." So Jonathan made a covenant with the house of David, saying, "May the Lord call David's enemies to account." And Jonathan had David reaffirm his oath out of love for him, because he loved him as he loved himself. Then Jonathan said to David, "Tomorrow is the new moon festival. You will be missed, because your seat will be empty. The day after tomorrow, toward evening, go to the place where you hid when this trouble began, and wait by the stone Ezel. I will shoot 3 arrows to the side of it, as though I were shooting at a target. Then I will send a boy and say, 'Go find the arrows.' If I say to him, 'Look, the arrows are on this side of you, bring them here,' then come, because as surely as the Lord lives, you are safe, there is no danger. But if I say to the boy, 'Look, the arrows are beyond you,' then you must go, because the Lord has sent you away. And about the matter you and I discussed, remember, the Lord is witness between you and me forever." So David hid in the field, and when the new moon festival came, the king sat down to eat. He sat in his customary place by the wall, opposite Jonathan, and Abner sat next to Saul, but David's place was empty. Saul had nothing that day, for he thought something must have happened to David to make him ceremonially unclean. Surely he is unclean. But the next day, the 2nd day of the month, David's place was empty again. Then Saul said to his son Jonathan, "Why hasn't the son of Jesse come to the meal, either yesterday or today?" Jonathan answered, "David earnestly asked me for permission to go to Bethlehem. He said, 'Let me go,' because our family is observing a sacrifice in the town, and my brother has ordered me to be there. If I have found favor in your eyes, let me get away to see my brothers. That is why he has not come to the king's table." Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, "You son of a perverse and rebellious woman, don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? As long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send and bring him to me, for he must die." "Why should he be put to death? What has he done?" Jonathan asked his father, but Saul hurled a spear at him to kill him. Then Jonathan knew that his father intended to kill David. Jonathan got up from the table in fierce anger. On that second day of the month he did not eat, because he was grieved at his father's shameful treatment of David. In the morning Jonathan went out to the field for his meeting with David. He had a small boy with him, and he said to the boy, "Run and find the arrows I shoot." As the boy ran, he shot an arrow beyond him. When the boy came to the place where Jonathan's arrow had fallen, Jonathan called out after him, "Isn't the arrow beyond you?" Then he shouted, "Hurry, go quickly, don't stop." The boy picked up the arrow and returned to his master. The boy knew nothing of all this. Only Jonathan and David knew. Then Jonathan gave his weapons to the boy and said, "Go carry them back to town." After the boy had gone, David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. Then they kissed each other and wept together, but David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me, and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" Then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town.
1 Samuel chapter 21. Then David came to Nob to Ahimelech the priest, and Ahimelech trembled when he met David, and said to him, "Why are you alone, and no one is with you?" David said to Ahimelech the priest, "The king has charged me with a matter, and said to me, 'Let no one know anything about the matter on which I am sending you, and what I have charged you. And I have directed the young men to such and such a place. So now, what is under your hand? Give me 5 loaves of bread in my hand, or whatever is here." And the priest answered David and said, "There is no common bread in my possession, but there is holy bread, provided that the young men have kept themselves from women." David answered the priest and said to him, "Truly, women have been kept from us these 3 days. When I came out, the vessels of the young men were holy, though it was but a common journey. How much more so today will their vessels be holy?" So the priest gave him holy bread, for there was no bread there but the bread of the presence that was taken from before Yahweh, in order to put hot bread in its place on the day when it was taken away. Now a certain man of the servants of Saul was there that day, detained before Yahweh, and his name was Doeg the Edomite, the chief of the shepherds of Saul. And David said to Ahimelech, "Is there not here in your possession a spear or a sword? For I have brought neither my sword nor my weapons with me, because the king's business required haste." And the priest said, "The sword of Goliath the Philistine, whom you struck down in the valley of Elah, behold, it is here, wrapped in a cloth behind the ephod. If you will take that, take it, for there is no other except that here." And David said, "There is none like that. Give it to me." So David arose and fled that day from Saul, and went to Achish, the king of Gath. The servants of Achish said to him, "Is this not David, the king of the land? Did they not sing one to another about him in dances, saying, 'Saul has slain his thousands, and David his 10,000s?' And David took these words to heart and was very afraid in the presence of Achish the king of Gath. So he changed his behavior before them and pretended to be mad in their hands, and made marks on the doors of the gate, and let his saliva run down on his beard. Then Achish said to his servants, "Look, you see, the man is mad. Why have you brought him to me? Do I lack madmen that you have brought this one to act the madman around me? Should this one come into my house?" 1 Samuel chapter 22. So David left there and escaped to the cave of Adullam. When his brothers and all his father's house heard it, they went down there to meet him. And everyone who was in distress, and everyone who was in debt, and everyone who was discontented gathered themselves to him, and he became the leader over them. And there were about 400 men with him. And David went from there to Mizpah of Moab. And he said to the king of Moab, "Please let my father and my mother come out and stay with you until I know what God will do for me." So he brought them before the king of Moab, and stayed with him all the days that David was in the stronghold. But the prophet Gad said to David, "Do not stay in the stronghold, leave and go into the land of Judah." So David left and came into the forest of Hereth. And Saul heard that David was discovered, and also the men who were with him. Now Saul was sitting in Gibeah under the tamarisk tree on the hill, with his spear in his hand, and all his servants were standing in attendance around him. Saul said to his servants who were standing around him, "Now listen, O Benjamites, will the son of Jesse give every one of you fields and vineyards? Will he make you all commanders of thousands and commanders of hundreds? That all of you have conspired against me, and there is none who reveals to me when my son cuts a covenant with the son of Jesse? And there is none of you who is sorry for me, who reveals to me that my son has caused my servant to rise up against me to lie in ambush, as he is today?" Then Doeg the Edomite, who was standing in attendance with the servants of Saul, answered and said, "I saw the son of Jesse come to Nob, to Ahimelech the son of Ahitub. He inquired of Yahweh for him, gave him provisions, and gave him the sword of Goliath the Philistine." Then the king sent messengers to call Ahimelech the priest, the son of Ahitub, and all his father's house who were in Nob, the priests, and all of them came to the king. And Saul said, "Now listen, O son of Ahitub." And he answered, "Here I am, my lord." And Saul said to him, "Why have you conspired against me, you and the son of Jesse, in that you have given him bread and a sword, and have inquired of God for him, so that he has risen against me to lie in ambush, as he is today?" Then Ahimelech answered the king and said, "Who among all your servants is so faithful as David, who is the king's son-in-law, and is commander over your bodyguard, and is honorable in your house? Is today the first time that I have inquired of God for him? Be it far from me. May the king not lay an accusation against his servant, or against any of the house of my father, for your servant knows nothing of all this, either small or great." But the king said, "You will die, yes, die, Ahimelech, you and all your father's house." Then the king said to the guards who were standing around him, "Turn and kill the priests of Yahweh, because their hand also is with David, and because they know that he was fleeing and did not reveal it to me." But the servants of the king would not stretch forth their hand to attack the priests of Yahweh. Then the king said to Doeg, "Turn and attack the priests." So Doeg the Edomite turned and attacked the priests, and he killed on that day 85 people who wore a linen ephod. And he struck Nob, the city of the priests, with the mouth of the sword, both men and women, children and nursing babies, and cattle of donkeys and sheep with the mouth of the sword. But one of the sons of Ahimelech, the son of Ahitub, named Abiathar escaped and fled to David. And Abiathar had told David that Saul had killed the priests of Yahweh. And David said to Abiathar, I knew on that day when Doeg the Edomite was there that he would tell Saul, I myself have turned against the life of all the people of your father's house. Stay with me and do not be afraid, for he who seeks my life seeks your life. For with me you are protected.